Farmer Thomas's furry friend. The crisp autumn air sent a shiver down Farmer Thomas's spine as he shuffled past his overflowing vegetable patch. His worn boots crunched on dew-kissed grass, his mind already calculating the profits his plump tomatoes and crisp lettuce would fetch at the market. Suddenly, a sharp hiss pierced the air, startling him from his reverie. A ginger blur darted out from behind a tomato trellis, a low growl rumbling in its throat. It was a scrawny stray with matted fur and piercing emerald eyes. Thomas stopped, surprised by the hostility. He hadn't even noticed the cat before. As he shifted his weight to take another step, the cat arched its back and let out another hiss, even more emphatic this time. Confused, Thomas glanced down and froze. Half buried in the soft earth, glinting ominously in the morning light, was a rusty nail. Had he taken one more step without the cat's warning, it could have been a nasty puncture. A grudging respect bloomed in Thomas's chest for the fierce feline. He crouched down, extending a calloused hand in a gesture of peace. All right, I see you. Thanks for the heads up, little fella." The cat remained frozen for a moment, its gaze flickering between the offered hand and the nail. Then, with a flick of its tail, it disappeared back into the tomato patch. Thomas chuckled, shaking his head. He continued his walk, the encounter leaving a strange warmth in his chest. The following week, Thomas stood on the ground next to his rickety shed. He glanced up at the leaky roof, a frown creasing his brow. Ignoring an ominous feeling, he grabbed his hammer and clambered up the ladder. As he reached for a shingle, a flash of ginger fur zipped past him, sending his toolbox tumbling down with a clatter. Startled, Thomas froze. Below, tools lay scattered on the ground. He sighed, muttering under his breath. He began his descent, each rung groaning under his weight. Halfway down, a sudden creak caused the hairs on his neck to stand up. He glanced up just in time to see a section of the roof begin to buckle. With a panicked cry, he scrambled down the remaining rungs, reaching the ground as the timbers gave way with a deafening crash. Dust settled, revealing a scene of destruction. Thomas stared, his heart hammering in his chest. Then, his gaze fell on the ginger cat perched on the edge of the remaining roof, its tail flicking nonchalantly. In that moment, it dawned on him. This wasn't an accident. The cat, somehow, had saved him again. A grin tugged at Thomas's lips. Maybe this little troublemaker wasn't so bad after all. Maybe fate had a funny way of bringing them together. Later that month, as he pushed his cart on the path to the market, a flash of orange darted into sight, leaping into his cart. Thomas sighed, resigned. There went a handful of his best tomatoes, crushed under the ginger cat's weight. Before he could even utter a word of reprimand, a deafening crash echoed from above. A monstrous, moss-covered gargoyle had toppled from the battlements of Castlethorne, landing with a sickening thud mere inches from Thomas's cart. Dust settled, revealing a gaping hole in the castle wall. Thomas's heart pounded in his chest. Had the cat, with its uncanny sixth sense, sensed the collapsing gargoyle and jumped into the cart as a reflex? It was starting to look that way. Maybe this stray wasn't so stray after all. Maybe he needed a home. Thomas knelt down and extended his hand once more. This time, the ginger cat didn't hesitate. It nudged its head against his calloused palm, a low purr rumbling deep in its throat. A smile bloomed on Thomas's face. "All right, Marmalade. Welcome home." From that day on, Marmalade, the once stray cat, became a permanent fixture of Thomas's farm. He still had a penchant for causing mischief, but somehow, it felt different now. It felt almost protective. And Thomas, despite the occasional overturned milk pail, wouldn't have it any other way.